Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we've got a whole new week of stories, and I do like to start the week with a Lorna Slater. It's always light and frothy. Now, I don't know what the weather's like where you are. Where I am, it's cold, wet and miserable. It's like a November day. We're not likely to see much improvement over the course of this week. Let's hope we can at least bring sunshine into your life with some uplifting stories. It's got some serious ones today, but I like to start light. So we will. We'll have a look to see why the Scottish Government are being asked to pay compensation for the DRS failure. It's been 6 weeks or so since the DRS was officially cancelled by a woman who couldn't do her job. She's trying to blame Westminster, but we know in actual fact it was down to the court case she lost because she didn't, look at what was required, basically. It was hard. Work's hard, and she's not up for it. And so it was bound to fail from day one. Their problem was that they needed it completely failed so they could blame Westminster, rather than attempting to make it work and admitting their problems. And they very much are her problems, and this compensation, I feel, needs to come out of her money. She'll need to sell her house. But let's face it, it isn't likely to happen. But it should, in any sort of just world, be the case. Anyway, we'll have a look at this, see what's going on, and see where the money's likely to come from. Here goes. So, Scottish Government asked to repay the small firms after the collapse of the drinks recycling scheme. It is the first time Holyrood ministers are being challenged to pay some of the debts owed by Circularity Scotland after it went bust with debts of 86 million, thanks to that woman and her inept stupidity. Bet Jeffrey's all proud of herself, isn't she? Because she knows it isn't going to come out of her pocket. The Scottish Government is being urged to help small businesses owed thousands of pounds each after the collapse of the drinks recycling firm, thanks to Lorna Slater not understanding that work needs to be done to make these things happen. It is the first time Holyrood ministers have been challenged to pay some of the debts owed by Circularity Scotland after it went bust with debts of 86 million. Now that went, and that's at taxpayers' expense, the 86 million. Before you start, you're looking 86 million there. Don't forget, you've got all these little companies now after their small compensations each, but add them all together, that's going to be quite significant. That's number one. Then you're going to get the larger companies coming after them for their compensation. This is not going to be any less than about £500 million, and possibly a lot more. The firm went into administration last month after ministers put a 2-year delay on their controversial deposit return scheme, which it was set up to run. Now, they are trying to say it was all to do with Westminster because Westminster didn't allow them to use glass. Westminster always said glass was never going to be part of it. We've covered the reason why. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was that they did a blanket charge across all these little suppliers. And it was costing them thousands a month, and it was basically not a viable thing. And so they said, no, you can't just do a blanket one. You've got to come back and do it on a one-to-one basis. Now, if you think there's 20,000 shops in Scotland that would have been, encouraged to come in on this scheme, they would have had to have gone to each and every single shop and worked out the individual compensation for each shop. Now, who's saying that? Well, the courts are saying that. The courts are saying that you need to do this. Now, they don't have the people in order to do this quickly. So what are they going to do? 2-3 shops a day? It could take them 10 years to get through that level of, consultancy. It was a word I'm struggling to find there. It could take them years. Well, she knew it was a non-starter, and ultimately was like, oh my God, it's all going to fail. Quick, let's all collapse it and blame Westminster for this, and we can use the glass thing. And yet everyone had told her that glass not being in it was fine. And this is, of course, the woman who refused 3 times to speak to people who were in the glass industry because she knew what they were going to say. And she didn't want it officially put down that it was fine, that she shouldn't do it. Because if it was officially there, then she's got no excuse when it collapses. Anyway, small firms owed cash by the failed company have called for ministers to set aside a fund to repay them, with experts previously suggesting large corporations could launch legal actions against ministers to try and recoup more than 80 million that they're owed, and in some cases a lot. Chris Watt, a freelance photographer from Edinburgh, is owed $960 from CSL for promotional work, and said people did things in good faith with his company, which was essentially backed by the government and only existed to operate a government initiative. And so people were doing this in the expectation of getting paid. He says margins are tight, and with the cost of living going up, it has a big impact on small businesses. Now I've basically got no chance of seeing this money. I think the Scottish Government should be showing some decency by setting out money aside to at least pay back the small Scottish businesses who have lost out. You're asking this government to have decency. This government, don't forget, are the ones who hid and covered up all the stuff that Jordan Linden was doing, that welcomed back sex pest MP Patrick Grady. You think that this is a decent government? Oh, that's the last thing they are. Anyway, the DRS was supposedly to increase recycling by adding a 20p deposit onto drinks containers, which would be refunded when the empties were returned to the shops. But the plans for a 2023 rollout were scrapped when the UK government denied a legal exemption to run the scheme in Scotland 2 years before the UK-wide one was due to start. And that's actually not true. The government did give them the full exemption, with the exception of glass, because they said that the UK-wide one wouldn't be having glass. Other than that, fine, go ahead. And the glass industry said, no, that's fine. We need the current scheme, which is very, very efficient. That's fine. And Circularity Scotland themselves said, and all the industry leaders in recycling said, no, it's absolutely fine without glass. Please go ahead without glass. It doesn't matter. And still, she didn't go ahead without glass. So let's not believe that is the case. That is not the case. Westminster politicians insisted the Scottish Government had failed to apply for the exemption until a few months before they hoped to launch the scheme. This is absolutely true. She's denied this. Lorna Slater denied that this was the case. But then the government actually produced the application form and showed it was the 6th of March this year was when they received the application. And it kind of, well, I think the term is boiled her own egg, didn't she? Because she was going, no, we applied for it years ago. And the government went, well, no, look, there it is. And that's you signing it. And it was signed on the 6th of March this year. And she had nowhere to go with that then, did she? Other Scots firms are owed larger amounts, including Glasgow-based IT company Hyper Limited, owed £22,000, PR companies Morrison Media, which is due more than £3,500, and Message Matters, which is owed nearly £6,000. The largest creditor is the multinational recycling firm Biffa, which is owed £65 million, followed by Reverse Logistics, a German company which manages recycling, which is owed £5 million. Lucozade, Ribena, Suntory, Lidl and British Soft Drinks Association were all members of Circularity Scotland and loaned it millions between them to get the company up and running. Biffa said it's still considering its options, while the British Soft Drinks Association said we have registered as a creditor of CSL and await the outcome of the administration process. Now, of course, you've got that, and then you've got all these other suppliers that came on board. You've got things like Tesco's, Morrison's, Asda, all these big supermarkets that set up their schemes, that made their investments at each and every one of their supermarkets. That'll all need to be repaid and recompensated. This is going to cost way more money than anyone ever thinks. A Scottish Government spokesman said Circularity Scotland Limited was established as a private not-for-profit company by the drinks industry to meet its regulatory obligations. Again, the Scottish Government are completely lying. It was not set up by the drinks industry. It was set up by the government. It has two shareholders, both of whom are government ministers. There you go. It has nothing to do with the drinks industry. They're trying to walk themselves away from it. They're trying to distance themselves away from these debts. But it won't wash. We all know. And we just have to go after the shareholders, both of whom are government ministers. So there you go. They're the ones liable. They said it would not be appropriate for the Scottish Government to fund the company or any claims against it. And in that line opens up a whole bag of court cases. The Scottish Government is now going to wank millions of pounds of public money fighting a court case which they cannot possibly win. Because that woman is, to put it bluntly, a fucking moron. I'm coming up. I think most definitely that Jeffrey needs to get her hand in her pocket and just literally start paying the money back. Like I say, she needs to have her salary garnished, and taken, let's say 90% of her monthly salary removed, so that this goes into the central fund. She's told to put her house on the market, and things like that. She's got to pay the compensation, and indeed the two ministers who are the shareholders, I don't believe she is. I don't think she's the shareholder. I think actually, funnily, I think Patrick Harvey is one of them, and it's not in his name; it's in the ministerial name. But so he'll be one, and then I think the trade minister is the other one. But these two, they also need to sell their houses and raise their funds and have that done, and that can go in the pot as well. And it won't pay off all the compensation, no. But I tell you what, it will do. It will concentrate the minds wonderfully of all those other ministers who may think about doing stupid things in future. And I certainly think that should be the case. And I'd love to see Lorna Slater held personally responsible for all of this, because after all, she is personally responsible for all of this. Every stage of failure were down to her. She chose wrongly at every single decision. Lovely, isn't it? Anyway, I shall stop there and we shall finish this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button. It's the start of a new week. I work hard. A subscribe button push would be an absolute gem of a start of a week. So do please, if you're a regular viewer, hit the start button. Hit the subscribe button, and join us for the truth in future. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep an eye out for the next video. It's going to be a cracker, and goodbye.